Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk to you about challenges and how momentary challenges we can be rid of them, we can be free of them, we can throw them away where they belong in the past, and how we can really do that quickly. This is a topic that I was recently asked to speak about, and it is really a good one because we all have these moments in our lives that don't go the way that we expect them to go, and then sideswipe us out of nowhere and really make us feel terrible. And sometimes that's related to other people. Maybe it's related to those that we have close karma with. So that can be especially challenging when it's people that we have deep emotional connections with. But it could also just be the volatility of our current moment in time where we experience these volatile external forces all of a sudden in very unexpected, turbulent ways entering directly into our lives. And we might even cry out, "Why me? Why is this happening? Uh, what am I supposed to do?" Well, even after that moment passes, oftentimes we have this residual PTSD, even if it's not a diagnosed disorder. It might be something like that, where there is just this extreme heaviness that takes over our bodies, even affecting our speech and our reactions to certain conditions, and then infects us and stays with us for a really long period of time. And that can be really, really, really challenging to be living with, and especially because it can feel very out of our control as well, because it's something that is also, it feels very automatic in from our bodily levels. It's something that our body seems to be doing, possibly, and not necessarily coming from any agency that we have. We're not deciding to respond to the world in this very anxious, challenged way when certain conditions are thrown at us. But at that moment, we suddenly do feel this stressed energy that takes us over and then stays with us and lingers for quite some time. So how do we get over that quickly and also entirely pacify it from its very root so that then, as it happens, if we are thrown into conditions, causes and conditions like that again, that can just immediately be responded to in an open way, and not in a way that we are expecting the worst and frightened and fearful, or antagonistic, fight or flight, fighty or flighty. We know both of those. We don't really want to feel that way, especially when the world isn't necessarily going to show us something that is a fighty or a flighty thing, conclusion, basically. So, how do we get over this? And so, the first thing that we can do is, if we pull our minds, wherever you are right now, we can pull our minds into all of a sudden this moment. And what one important practice is space. So right now, hopefully you can find some space, and wherever you are, bring your attention back to this space. The space that you're in, you might be on a cushion, you might be driving in a car, you might be, um, sitting or laying down on a couch or whatever. That space, this space, wherever you are, this space, bring your attention back to this space. And recognize that wherever that space is, there's not any of this, there's nothing that's harmful right now to you. I mean, just really rest, bring the attention back. There may be some distractions, But if we bring our attention back to this present moment, those distractions sort of fall away. They'll change, they'll morph. So the first thing that we can do, and this is very very brief because this is a teaching and not a meditation, is bring our attention back to this space, this immediate space that we are in, the present space. And if we cannot find ourselves that space, go get that space. Meaning, if you're in a condition where there are people or events that are happening that are scaring you, it's okay to walk away from those and go get that space. And even if you have to run away, that's okay too. It's okay to go find your space. That's the first thing. Find your space. Because oftentimes we live in this world where we actually think that it's not okay to have space and to find space and also to experience the space of wherever you are right now. So all of those things are possible. Right here, right now, we can find our space. Once you've found your space in a kind of a contrived way, I described running away, running to maybe a quiet place, or finding a moment in the car where you're parked and you don't have to get out yet, so it's quiet and relaxing. These are kind of contrived spaces. These are external spaces that are able to be calm. And that's important because first we can make a habit out of really becoming aware of our minds as we're in that type of space. And when we bring our attention back to our present spacious place, and our spacious mind, actually, our spacious mind, when we're in a calm place, we feel like the temperature is starting to go down. We take deep breaths, for example. We feel like the thermometer is returning to normal. And these types of panic moments, these types of challenging moments, stressful moments are now suddenly coming back down. Our minds are able to suddenly settle in these external spaces where we feel calm and we can find some place that's not distracted by the challenge that we're enduring, whether or not it's people or it's related to like something scary or volatile or whatever that is in your life. So finding some patch of external reality that you can find that space. So we first do that, and then as we are there, we look at our minds and we recognize that uh, the thermometer is coming back down, and that actually we're safe. This is a safe space that we've found. And as we're in this safe space, then we start to recognize that we might ask ourselves the question, what makes it a safe space? And it's kind of an interesting question because we might find that answer is kind of all in our heads. We've made it the safe space by breathing deeply, by getting that space, by putting ourselves in this space that's not the one that we feel conflict in. And because of that, this space that we feel is like our safe space, whether or not that's like a grassy patch somewhere, or a couch, or like the interior of your car, as I mentioned, where there's no one else there with you. This space now is safe, relaxed, free. Your mind is at peace, relaxed, spacious. But why is this unique? Why is this space unique? And the answer appears to be because you see it like that. There's an observer, you, who's saying, this is my safe space. This is where I feel comfortable. And that means that it presents you an opportunity, basically. It means that maybe your safe space is something that is able to be whatever your mind dictates is safe. That the idea of safety or the idea of stress free or calm and collected is something that really is in your head. And it's something that you're running to find, we are running to find elsewhere. But we're kind of just saying, well, this is good enough. And then, okay, I'll relax. But the act of relaxation is not dependent on whether or not you're in a grassy patch or in your car, or whether or not you found a really good, peaceful place, or whether or not you put on your headphones and you're watching another YouTube of like peaceful waves crashing or something, and you're able to like, rest, peaceful space, right? Whatever those things are on an external appearance perspective, whether those are intrinsically peaceful or not, is really up to your mind. You're the one that's decided that this is the peaceful thing. And some of us have different peaceful things. Some of us find like loud music peaceful, and other people cannot stand that. Actually, it has to be nice, calming, maybe piano music or violin or something like that. Or maybe just, some people think that the sounds of wave crashing is noise, and other people find that to be soothing. But that's just a mental thing. That's just something that is in the mind. So once we start to recognize that this is something in our mind, we might decide that we could find an opportunity to train the mind in seeing other things as peaceful, not just these peaceful places that we've run to or grabbed onto that make us feel safe, and away from the the stressful moments and the challenging moments and the volatile moments that we are challenged by. We might recognize that actually we can find more places that are peaceful if we just train our minds to feel peaceful in those places. So actually, this is a lot of the ways that the behavioral therapists will train people that have phobias, is that they will, talk about starting to introduce the phobias to the mind in a baby step sort of way. So at first, you don't want to go to the extreme. If, like, for example, there's this one condition that's always causing the mind to just go really out of control, obviously don't jump into that. But maybe if you find that there's only a few places in the world that you feel is a safe space, maybe start to expand that out. Start to go further out from that. So if it's your car, for example, and the car is parked in some parking lot, your mind can just through like a meditative practice or a mindfulness practice say, okay, not only is this car safe, the next two parking spaces are safe. Am I safe here with the other two parking spaces? Okay. Now I'm going to expand that out to more parking spaces. Now I'm going to expand it out to like even the whole mall. Now I'm going to expand it out, expand it out, expand it out. And as you do this, you can do it in your car. Your mind will feel even more spacious and even more at rest. And then if you engage also your body, you can get out of the car and walk around into these other parking spaces. You can walk further away and still train. And if you if you reach that point where it's, you suddenly feel, this is not a safe space. I'm getting too close to the trigger, whatever that trigger is. Then take a few steps back. Maybe that's it for the day. Maybe tomorrow you can push that other boundary. But this is an introduction to the type of practice that you can engage in. And then the last thing I'll say is, why does this work? How does this work? And it really comes down to the core reason why the suffering, in this case, the challenging moment, is unfolding. The core reason that it's unfolding in one's mind, why it's causing this fight or flight, why it's causing this stress, why it's causing this reaction that we have, it just bubbles up. Why? The reason that it is because we have forgotten that our nature is this spacious mind that we just introduced in apologies for me, it's, in a very quick manner and not really, directly. It's sort of more theoretical right now, but you're all very, very smart people, so you'll be able to figure it out and test it out for you. But the core of this is that our nature is actually spacious, very spacious. If we sit and we push those boundaries out and out and out and out and out and out in our minds, it becomes magnificently spacious. We can reach out in our minds the limits of space. We can access the limits of space. And actually, even if we don't believe that we can with our minds, we can even just in reason. We are just a small little tiny thing in a grand cosmic scheme. We all believe in the universe. The universe is unfathomably massive. And we can consider that. And when we do consider that, our minds expand. Our spacious attitude expands. And that's actually what's possible. That expansive context of total nature, the nature of the universe. That's what we can access in our minds because we're but a small little piece of that whole. And because we're just a small little piece within the whole and us, we make up each other. And so we can access that in our minds. And because that's actually our nature, we can actually find that we're okay in every situation because there's nothing that can harm space. No one can harm space. But what we've forgotten is that that in the moments that have triggered us. Because as human beings and as animals, very sophisticated animals, but as very sophisticated animals that have bodies, we are hurt. And when we are hurt, we recoil, and it's very natural that we do. And when we are in pain, we see others that we love in pain. We have tribes and they're in pain. All of this has a result on our bodies. And we have associated a self to that body. That body is me, and I need to protect me. But if we do the meditation, if we actually take this cosmic scheme and bring that into our minds, then what will happen is during that point in time, our minds will not be thinking about this body and this me. Instead, the mind will be thinking about the space. And as the mind thinks about space, the mind will become like space. The mind is like a mirror and will be caught up in space rather than caught up in me, my body, and all of that we hold as most important generally. And if we can train ourselves to consistently stay in this space of our minds, nothing can cause us to freak out. Nothing can cause us to freak out. So obviously that's the objective, right? And there are wonderful spiritual masters that have accomplished that have mindfully brought that in and have continued to do that, and continue to remind themselves of that, and they just disseminate that to others. But we ourselves are like little tiny beginners, and that's okay. We don't have to go beyond being tiny beginners because the result is just the same space. So if we just begin wherever we're at and just find that space, that's our priority. If we are scared and freaking out, if someone has scared us, find that space. It might be that you can't get away from the situation right now. It might be that the situation has taken you over, that you are imprisoned by it. You know, someone's actually holding you down, maybe. I mean, there's all sorts of moments like that in our lives. In that moment, look for space. Look for space. You'll find it. Look for something that's space. It's around. It's always around. And as you gain that practice, what will happen is the there will be a level of detachment that will occur when the trigger comes into play. When these cause and conditions that generally have us really worried come and show their heads. In that moment, there will be a practice, a mindful practice, a habitual practice that we'll have created to look for space. Look for space when that happens, when this happens, when I'm afraid. Look for space. That's the trigger. That's the flag. The trigger is scaring me, and now, I got to remember, look for space. Space is here. It's always here. It's always been here. There's space all around you externally. There's infinite space as far as scientists haven't even found the borders of the universe, and they don't even know if has a border. And potentially there's a multiverse, so that doesn't have a border. So there's just space. You can always find space externally, but also internally. Find the space. There's space in there too. Even when the emotions are swirling, even when the stressors are stressing, there's still the breathing. There's still the space. Boom, boom, boom. Space. Always space. And once we rest in the space, there's nothing more we have to do. And we just sustain that for as long as we can until there's the next thing that starts to freak us out, and then we just remind ourselves again. And that will, if we create a practice out of this and you try it out, you will find that these types of afflictive moments that are so potent and so stressing and so immediate will eventually stop elevating to 1,000,000 degrees. Maybe they'll start to pull down in terms of how much it freaks us out. Until eventually, it just seems a little silly. And that is when we can really conquer those afflictions and reorient ourselves into situations and places where those won't even unfold in all likelihood. But even if they do, does it really matter if we have this practice and we always find space? even in the afflictions? It's up to you to find out. So, thank you so much. This is really just uh, the ramblings of somebody who has no understanding of any of this, but who has been inspired at times by others who do. And so I hope that you find space within you because it's there. Be well.